Injustice 2 is a fighting game developed by the Warner Bros. Company, and it is a sequel to the fighting game Injustice Gods Among Us. Alright, so let's get the best aspects of this game out of the way, because they're really good. So, personally, I have to say this as my own personal addendum. I hate fighting games. I suck at them, and because of that, I hate them. I think the gameplay always feels choppy. I'm just not into the whole square, one punch, and then X, and then the combo. Like, I'm okay with games like Devil May Cry and God of War, but the fighting games that are, like, involving combos, I feel like the gameplay is just always choppy feeling. Anyway, Injustice 2, hands down the best parts of it. Great cast of characters, amazing graphics, and a lot of the storytelling and the story elements are very well done. And I will also add, I did say I hate fighting games because I suck at them, but the tutorial of Injustice 2 is so in-depth, is so thorough. It allows you to actually learn how to play it and give you the opportunity to have fun playing it. And I can honestly say there were small times a small amount of times where I would kind of get aggravated because they kind of ramped the difficulty up in the story mode, even though it was on the easiest. What I can say, though, is Injustice 2 is by far, the most fun fighting game that you could ever play yet. Okay, it's not for just professional experts, it's not just for newbies. I feel like they actually had a good balance in Injustice 2 for the gameplay mechanics. Is it balanced gameplay wise? Oh, hell no. Not at all. I feel like some characters' finishing moves take off like that much amount of health, and then some characters take off like half of that. Otherwise, though, outside of that, I don't really have much to complain about the gameplay itself. The gameplay, I think, is the best aspect of this game, honestly. I'm not I don't really I don't really pick apart gameplay balance and stuff like that in fighting games. I just play them to try and just play them. Because like I said, I suck at them. So any negative criticism from me, most people would just toss it away anyway. But personally, coming from a newbie who sucks at fighting games, I had a lot of fun playing Injustice 2. Secondly, the graphics, 10 out of 10. If this game was just being reviewed and rated and scored based off of nothing but graphics, 10 out of 10. Otherwise, some detracting moments and parts from this game. The voiceovers, sometimes, I don't know, they didn't really fit the characters every now and then. Like, for the most part, I felt inside the universe and inside the world when they would speak to each other and whatnot, but then other times, I don't know, the voiceover just felt, I don't know, kind of just not in the game. The biggest problem with Injustice 2, though, is the story, the storytelling, and the story writing. And I guess the story direction as well. So, half of this game, phenomenal. I would say 10 out of 10 would be half of this game. The other half is just sloppy. It's literally just, so we get a nice exposition and plot exposition and character dump and everything. And then for the next 10 to 20 minutes after that, in each chapter, it's just somebody arrives, you beat them up. Somebody else arrives, you beat them up. Somebody else arrives, beat them up. Oh, next chapter. Oh, long character exposition and plot disposition. Yeah, that's the biggest problem of this game. It feels very, very uneven and very, very disjointed. I will say it picks up a lot more by the third act, but even then though, it's just like you go through long story, a bunch of random fights, and then next chapter, long story, a bunch of random fights. It just, I don't like it. Okay, I feel like they could have balanced it out a lot better by, doing character and plot exposition, and then a fight, and then more of the story, and then a fight. And you don't always have to have an actual gameplay fight. Add in a couple QTEs in the cutscenes. That way you feel involved. Because otherwise you're just gonna sit there watching it and then I don't know, be like, I'm hungry or I'm thirsty and go get something. It's just like the whole problem with playing Japanese games in English voiceover. You'll just be like, oh well, I can hear it, so let's go do other things. A prime example of that would be like the Yakuza series. I've learned from playing them in Japanese voiceover compared to English. I am a lot more invested and involved in the story, into watching it play out in Japanese than what I am with English. English, I still follow the story, but I'm going and doing things. Whereas like Japanese voiceover, I have to watch the subtitles to read. I'm not bilingual by any means, so I have to sit here and read it, and I actually can experience it. In Injustice 2, I just feel like the storytelling was kind of like that, but it was like not optional. You just kind of had a long story dump, and then fights, and then chapter, and then long story dump, fights, new chapter. And the story, for what I liked about it, the story is really strong. It's a really well told story. But that's only like half of the story that I liked, though. The other half was just repetitious fighting, which, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the gameplay in this game. But whenever you put in the gameplay into the story, and it just feels like it's random and nonsensical, there's an issue there in a fighting game. Okay? So, above all, I would say I like Injustice 2, but I would never buy it. Rent at the very most. So, otherwise, Injustice 2 is a 7 out of 10 for me. Thank you.